Hi everybody, it's great to be back here again. Anytime it's Friday, Parashat Bahalotcha. There are a lot of different topics in this week's portion as usual. Today I want to focus and somehow connect between a few of them on the difficult story in this week's portion, which talks about the desire for the people of Israel to have meat. Which is something very unusual. We know if we look in this week's portion, chapter 11, verse number 4, it begins. And we see how the Asafsuf, which is known as the Erev Rav, the mixed multitude, they're the ones who sort of initiated this request to have meat, but quickly it says all of Israel joined and they were crying, they all wanted meat. What was the problem? They said, wow, we remember the gefilte fish of Egypt. We remember the avatichim, which is like some kind of form of avatich. Today is watermelon in modern Hebrew, but there's some kind of dalat, some kind of pumpkin. The garlic, they wanted onions, whatever it was. The markets in Egypt must have been full of good food. That's what they were remembering. And they were tired of having this spiritual man, which was their souls were literally, it says, our nefesh is dry. Our nefesh is one of the levels of the soul, was dry from this man. They didn't want man anymore. They wanted some real meat. You know, some, as we say, meat and potatoes. This is what their request was all about. But the question is of why a spiritual nation of Israel, we know that they reached the highest level of receiving the Torah. This was a nation. This was the people that not only in spirit but in body, they received the Torah. How can they sin in such a way? By asking for something so low, desiring meat, when here they were the highest spiritual level. In our esoteric teachings, and I read a beautiful ma'amar, a beautiful essay by the Chalban, and he speaks about trying to explain, you can't understand this in a simplistic view of they really had this desire for meat. That doesn't really make sense, again, because of the fact that these were very high individuals. And he explains it in a very special way. He brings down that the desire here was really to take this meat, something physical, and being able to uplift it. And Moshe Rabbeinu, on the other hand, as the leader of the people, we see that here, some very, very harsh words. He says to God, you know, something, I didn't give birth to this nation, just kill me, you know, just like he spoke about a similar fashion in the sin of the calf, which we read about in the book of, again, Exodus, Shemot. Here again we see Moshe Rabbeinu putting himself on the line. God, just bump me off, I can't be here. But here Moshe Rabbeinu says, I can't bear this nation, I can't deal with it. And God right away gives him takes him to gather 70 people, and he says he's going to place part of the spirit of Moshe Rabbeinu upon them. More people are prophesying in the camp. But the question is, what did Moshe Rabbeinu, what was he saying? He can't bear this. What was this all about? And Moshe Rabbeinu, who was, again, the leader, he saw very clearly that the nation wasn't on the spiritual level, that they could take something physical and uplift it. He saw that, and he was saying, how am I going to do this? When he said, how am I going to get meat for everybody? He meant how all these people are going to be able to eat a piece of meat for spiritual reasons. And because if we look in this world, we see there are really two kinds of souls. There are those that are naturally inclined to do physical things, very good builders, give them a hammer and nails, they're going to be banging all day long and fixing things all day long. Take these same guys and put them inside the study house and put them in yeshiva, they're going to go out of their mind. They can't sit for 12 hours a day and study Torah. Give them an hour. That will be, for them, won't be so simple. But all day long studying Torah, they prefer to work in physical things. And there are others that are naturally, the teachers, the Torah scholars, give them a piece of Talmud to study, they'll be learning all day long. Give them a hammer and nails, they'll break their arm. So you have natural division amongst the people, which is wonderful. Some people have to do this kind of work, and some people have to do that kind of work. The highest level is to find one person who's able to make that switch. When he's doing spiritual things, he's completely there. When he's doing physical things, he's completely there. He knows how to do both without letting one take him over completely, letting the spiritual take him out of this world completely, letting the physical bring him down, to the lowest levels. You have to be able to combine the worlds. And that is really, of course, our function as human beings in this world, is being able to take the physical and the spiritual and uplift them, combine them together to uplift the other. The spiritual has to rule, has to let everything we do physically has to be uplifted. But Moshe Rabbeinu here, again, as the leader of the nation in Israel, at that time in the desert, who was the highest level of a human being as Moshe Rabbeinu, we know it says, Vahi b'shurun melech. He is a king and also a prophet. Moshe is a combination. He, in his soul, really had a combination of both. He was able to be a leader, a king, which is dealing with a lot of physical things. On the other hand, he's the greatest prophet of all time. So he's combining both worlds. But most of the time, we have someone who's a king is a king, and someone who's a prophet's a prophet. It's usually divided. The work is usually divided. But here, we're talking about the nation of Israel in the desert, complaining of a meat. Obviously doesn't make sense because, again, this was a nation that received Torah. This was a nation that was the generation of Torah, of receiving Torah. They were the highest spiritual level. So how could they, again, fall so low and want to desire meat? So it's explained, Chabad explains, that the desire really came from to rectify. They wanted to be able to see that they're capable of rectifying the physical. Taking something, for example, we know today when a person participates in a banquet, right? When it's a part of a mitzvah, when this banquet comes from doing a mitzvah like a wedding party, or a bar mitzvah party, or a circumcision party, or finishing a tractate party, those are the kind of meals that you should really participate and have meat. But otherwise, during the week, a person should try to stay away from this, the meat kind of thing. It's not so simple, eating meat every single day. And again, those people on a high spiritual level understand the difference. Because when we do something physical, we really want to uplift it. Even when we're eating, we want to try to be more spiritual about our eating habits and everything we do in this physical world. That's a higher level. But whatever it was, Moshe Rabbeinu saw that within the nation, that this is really what they were attempting to do, right? And he felt that they weren't ready for it. He said, God, something take me away. I don't see how they're going to be able to do this. And so they were kind of playing where as long as they were involved in the spiritual, they were able to survive. They were able to flourish. But the minute it became getting more involved in the physical, they fell. And we see here what happened. They requested this meat, and a terrible plague came out of it, a terrible disaster came out of the desire for meat, because they weren't able to take the spiritual level and bring it down to the physical. And that really was the sin of the basar ta'ava, it's called, the desire for meat. Moshe Rabbeinu bound himself with the people of Israel at this time. He was a complete leader, and he was completely devoted. He did not enter the land really because of them, because they weren't able to enter the land of Israel. Moshe Rabbeinu ended up staying outside the land of Israel. Now, what does this all mean? The land of Israel, we know, represents this particular side, that it's taking something physical, a physical land, being able to work the land, to fight off the evil forces in the land, and being able to sanctify the land and making it spiritually and holy. And that's really the beauty of redemption. Redemption really means being able to take the physical and being able to uplift it through the spiritual. And that's really through the land of Israel. And this all fits in perfectly, the Chabad brings down, is what Eldad Meidad. We see something that's interesting. Portions when Moshe Rabbeinu tells Hashem, I need help, and God says, gather 70 elders, and then he places his spirit, part of Moshe Rabbeinu's spirit upon the elders. We see that two people remain in the camp, and they continue to prophesy. And right away, a young lad comes running and says, they're still prophesying over here, and then Yeshua says to Moshe Rabbeinu, should I arrest them? Can I stop them? And Moshe Rabbeinu says, may it be that everyone should be a prophet. What do you feel bad about, upset about my honor? I'd be happy for everyone to be a prophet. What was the deep thing about this? And this is what Aaron and Miriam, they saw, and together with Israel, what was the prophecy that they wanted to stop Eldad and Medad saying? And they were prophesying, and they were saying that Moshe Rabbeinu was going to die, and Joshua was going to lead the people of Israel into the land of Israel. They were prophesying as well about Gog and Magog, the different things, with different prophecies they were having, meaning about Mashiach, Messiah at the end of time. And here, this is where Joshua got upset. He said, wait a second, Moshe Rabbeinu is going to die, he's going to end up staying in the desert, and I'm going to take the people, the nation to the land of Israel. And they wanted to stop him because they didn't want to hear those words that Moshe, their leader, is going to die. But in a deep essence, what was it saying? Since Moshe Rabbeinu bound himself to the people of Israel, and they weren't ready to uplift the physical, and that's really what the land is all about, coming into the land of Israel. And building the land of Israel all has to do with uplifting the physical, taking something physical and turning it into spirituality. And that's the beauty of the land. We're a nation of Israel. We're not monks that go somewhere in a monastery and meditate all day long. But God wants us to actually take a physical land and being able to build that land and turn it into a flourishing place and bring God's presence down to the world, down to this physical universe. That is what the job is all about. But the people of the desert, they weren't ready for that yet. That's why they had to remain outside. Moshe Rabbeinu, because he was bound to them, he couldn't really lead. And this is reflected in our teachings by something called Rachel v'Leah. Leah, in the matriarchs, represents the Alma Ditkasya, the hidden world. Rachel represents the physical world. and they both have to be combined. Like Jacob was able to combine both worlds. That's why he married the two wives named Rachel and Leah. Moshe Rabbeinu had it. The first man, Adam HaRishon, had it. He had it all. And here in the land of Israel, that's combining Rachel and Leah together as well, spiritual and physical together. And that was really the rectification that can only be done if you're in the land of Israel. So, and therefore, interesting, next week we're going to talk about the spies. It's all connected to this, that they weren't able to rectify. That's why they had this desire for meat. They wanted to try it, but they couldn't. They fell there. We saw that their issue was that they were those souls that had to do something only spiritual. They couldn't deal with both. But that's the secret of inheriting the land, being able to really combine both worlds and really turn it into one in one combination. Like the menorah, mikshachat. Taking a physical menorah, the vessels that are made out of metal, gold, and letting the lights, the flame which shines the light of the Torah. That's really what the Torah is all hinted. The menorah represents both these worlds. That's why this week's portion opens up with the menorah. It's all connected. And if we see that Aaron and Miriam are talking lashon hara, evil about their brother Moshe, what do they talk evil? What do they say? They're saying about the woman, the Cushite woman that he married. Now, what does it all mean? We know that Chazal explained, one explanation are that he separated himself from his wife. And that bothered him very much, that Moshe Rabbeinu separated himself because he was constantly connected to Hashem. He was at a special level. But here in itself reflects this concept that Moshe Rabbeinu, being part of the nation, of the spiritual nation, sort of being married to a woman, is the exact concept of a land, because the land, as we know in our esoteric teachings, is called the nukba, the feminine side. And by building a land, we are combining both and rectifying the feminine side. So a person married to a woman, of course, marriage is that exact thing, is that together, husband and wife are building one unit through the physical and spiritual together, combining together. And that was really the complaint of Moshe Rabbeinu. They said, right away said, we're all prophets. Right away they didn't realize the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu, and that's why she was punished. Because God said right away, there's no one greater than Moshe Rabbeinu, no one greater than the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu. And they were eventually punished for that. It says Moshe Rabbeinu is the most anav, the most modest person on all of earth. It wasn't that he could have, he didn't know how to combine both worlds, but he acted as a reflection of the nation that he was leading at that time. And therefore, since he bound himself with the nation, is willing to die for the nation, he had to maintain the level that they were on at that time. But the level, again, that was reflected in the prophecy of Eldad and Medad, and about combining both worlds of the land of Israel, this was the prophecy which was talking about the end of days, Messiah as well, of being coming to the land of Israel, building a nation in the land of Israel of prophecy, of both a physical and spiritual world, combining it together. And that's something, unfortunate, that this particular generation in the desert wasn't ready for. And therefore Moshe Rabbeinu had to remain outside. And that's really the understanding at a much higher level of what this desire was all about for the meat and why they couldn't maintain it. And again, what our rectifications could be at the end of days, the Messiah is going to be able to rectify both worlds. And that, I think, a quick ending over here, it brings us right here to Itamar. We just had yesterday a beautiful celebration. We celebrated inauguration of one of the new neighborhoods in our community. It was so beautiful to see how we're growing in the land of Israel. Prophecy coming true in front of our eyes, taking something so physical, a physical land, but you're seeing, bringing God down there, and so spiritual. Seeing how the land is flourishing and giving back with a great smile to the people of Israel who is returning to building Hashem's land. This is going to bring us to Mashiach. This is going to bring, again, the building of the third temple and redemption of the entire world. Combining both worlds, and here we merit being in the land of Israel, being able to experience both worlds. But anyway, I want to invite you all to come and experience both worlds here on Itamar in Israel. So have a wonderful Shabbat. Miss you all. We'll catch you again soon. Shabbat Shalom.